We looked at displaced elements and exploded views. And as I look at the projects that you're developing in different classes, there are additional tools that I'd like to talk to you about in this video. One of those is creating a building section that's in perspective. And so first I'd like to show you this project here. There's the roof by extrusion that we know how to do from working with roofs. If I change the transparency under graphic display options, you'll see that the trusses follow the profile of this roof that was created. So if I select the roof and I pick Edit Profile, see this, the sketch becomes the profile for the extension. So if you did work on a project that had this unique truss that you've created, you can use roof by extrusion to place that roof. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is that if you had a roof that also curved, maybe this went back and also curved, you could create a path that went along that curve and a profile of the roof so that the profile would follow that path. And as a reminder, if you do use a path and a profile, the profile is not just one line like the roof by extrusion. The profile would be this entire closed shape, the top and the bottom here of the roof. So I'm going to turn the transparency off now. In the level 1 view, I'll go ahead and create a camera view. And in this camera view, we have this crop region, but we also can turn on the section box in the view properties. So here I'm going to put a check mark in section box and pick apply. And now if you roll the wheel back a little bit, you should be able to see that section box. I can then select the section box, and this is kind of the tricky part. We need to find the arrows that represent the front and the back views of the section box. And this one here is going to give you the front edge of the section box so that we can start to bring it back a little ways and start to create here a section box kind of crop of this view. So if I come back far enough, I'll find a point where it becomes a section that's through my building, but still a perspective. I can give it a little bit more depth by just using the section box to control how much I'm seeing of the section. So once you work with these control grips, you can decide on how much of your building is showing and if it's going to have a lot of depth and where the section cut is going to occur within your building. And now we have this crop region. If we wanted to use that to kind of crop out the view, we could do that. We need to type in VG and go to the Annotation Categories tab in order to turn off your section box. If you turn it off over here in Properties, it will turn off the section that we just created. And then we can turn off also the view of this crop region, the visibility of it. We can take the check mark out here and pick apply. So now we have the beginning of a perspective section, and we have to decide on a few things. When we use the shaded view, we can take the earth large scale out by going to the Massing and Site tab and clicking on the small arrow next to Model Site and picking here under the section cut material, instead of showing the earth, we can take the pattern, the cut pattern, out. So we'll just put no pattern here and pick OK. And now it becomes kind of a nice color for presentation. It's a personal choice, I suppose, and the crop region can be changed also. Unfortunately, in this view, in this kind of camera view, we have less options than in an actual section that I'll show you in a few minutes. But we can change some things like the detailed lines. If I use a coarse, it's going to give me a little different view as the medium and the fine. So medium and fine are very similar. In the graphic display options, we've looked at these tools before, but in this view, this perspective section view, building section view, we can change the transparency. But look what happens when you change the transparency. Right away, the cast shadows and the ambient shadows will gray out. So it looks nice sometimes to have this transparency, and you can even have transparency per element. This one is for the whole view. But as soon as I turn the transparency off, I can put a check mark in cast shadows, and I can change down here how much cast shadows that I want to show inside this view. The ambient shadows are nice because they give kind of a softer glow to the shadows. It seems to put a shadow around the corners of the objects here. And you can also lighten up your project a little bit if you'd like to show a little bit more sunlight here in this lighting panel. And of course, you can decide in the sun settings, as we've gone through before, if you want to bring the sun from the top right or top left, or click on still and bring in a specific location, day and time. I'll cancel out of that. We can also change the background, as we did before, to sky or gradient. Gradient will give you the option of creating different colors for the ground, horizon, and the sky, depending on the view. And we can bring in an image. Maybe we want to bring in a sky in the background. You can stretch it or use the original size and change the height. If we type in VG, as a reminder, we can go to the walls, the floors, the roof, and change the graphic overrides. So here I'll go to the walls and click on, for the cut pattern, the override button, and change this to a black or whatever color you'd like, and the pattern being solid, so that when I go back to my drawing, these walls become black. So I could have done that for the floors and the roof to show the section cut in this black, darker color. Now, unfortunately, in this view, which is still a camera view showing a section, under the Modified tab, we won't have access to the Join tools. We will have access to the line work, but it's not as clear as an actual wall section. When you use LW for line work, you can change your line work to invisible or thin lines. Now, in a regular section, if I was to go to a building section that's not a camera view, in this regular section that's not a camera view, I can use tools like this join geometry to join the walls and the floor and kind of get that smooth transition from one element to the other. And I can clearly use here the line work tool if I wanted to make some of these lines invisible or even lighter. I could click on invisible lines, and then maybe I don't want to see them. I may have to click on it a couple of times, but then it takes out that line work. If I wanted to add line work, I could go to the Annotate tab and pick Detail Line and draw lines, hidden lines, medium lines, wide lines, and these are all controlled. The line weights here are controlled under the Manage tab. Under Additional Settings, you can go to Line Styles. In this Line Styles dialog box, I can see all of the different line styles that are here in Revit, but you can also create your own based on your presentation. These are the numbers that represent how bold your lines will look, and the pattern, the line pattern and color. If you select an element, you can right-click and go to Override Graphics in View by Element. So for this view, just this one element can have these graphic overrides. So for example, the transparency of this one object that I've selected can be modified and different than other elements in this view. This is the one setting that cannot be saved in the view template. If you want to take some of what you've created in this view, the settings, and apply it to another view. So it's kind of the last resort for changing some of the display options, because it's only going to be specific to this view, which sometimes is okay anyways. So you have surface patterns and cut lines that you can change, or halftones, whether it's visible or not. And here it makes for kind of a nice presentation. But for this view, if I right click over in the project browser, you'll see that you can create a view template from this view, holding those settings that you've just established, and apply different templates to this view here or over in Properties under View Template. It says None, so we can select from different views those parameters. Of course, turning your shadows on in any view is going to help the graphics, but slow down the drawing a little bit more.
We'll start by creating an area plan and then establishing a schedule. We'll draw a small building based on these 4 walls. And then in the Home tab under Room and Area panel, we'll go to Area and pick Area Plan. Here we're going to change this type to gross building instead of rentable, and then we're going to highlight Level 1 and pick OK. We'll be asked, do we want to automatically have created these boundary lines that associate the external walls with the gross building area? We want to pick yes. You'll notice a new plan in the project browser, and the blue lines that are on the outside of the walls, and the big X and the area that's actually established right inside the drawing there, showing you the square footage. Now let's go to Level 2, and in the Level 2 plan we'll need to create a floor. It's based on the floor area, so we'll go to, in the Home tab, Floor, and then we'll highlight one of the walls and press the tab and then click, and finish the floor. Now we can go back to the area plan and pick, for this one, level 2 and rentable, and pick OK. And then, do you want to automatically create the boundary lines? Pick yes. And now you'll see that in the level 2 area plan, the blue bold lines are on the inside face for the rentable area as opposed to the gross area. The level 2 plan, we'll go back to the floor plan level 2 and draw a few more walls here and establish our doors. If we go back to the area plan, you'll see that the two floor plans they're the same. Right now there's no boundary between the two rooms, so when we place an area, it's going to be for the entire floor space. So we'll need to create a boundary that will separate this area, the two areas. We can go up to area and down to area boundary line and select the two walls. The boundary will be created between the two rooms, and then go up to area and establish a second area for the other room, separating the two. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move here down to the bottom the title and the area marker so that I can draw another wall that's to the left of the one that I just drew. And notice I'm drawing it right in the area plan. It will automatically be placed on level 2. And so we're establishing boundaries. In the area drop down, you'll see the area plan, which we used, an area, which helps us to establish the title and the square footage, and then the area boundary line, which here I'm just drawing a boundary line, and see how it cuts back that portion so that you can establish another area in that third space. So eventually, as you're adding walls and creating your spaces, you can take a look at how many square feet are in each one of those. We'll go back to the level 2 plan and you'll see that the new walls are there. We'll go ahead and add a door. And there is some discussion on Revit City and other website blogs about the difference between an area plan and a floor plan, because here in the floor plan, level 2, you can establish a room tag . I'm ready now to create a schedule, so I'll go to the View tab and pick Schedule. We said that there were quite a few schedules here that you can work with, and there are some that are not typical, so they're not within the schedule list. If you pick on Schedule and Quantities, you'll have quite a selection of different schedules to choose from. And if you put a check mark and show categories from all disciplines, you'll have even more categories to choose from. We're going to uncheck that, and on the left side we'll select Rooms as the category. Then we're going to change the name to Room Area Schedule. And then pick OK. In this dialog box we can add fields. So we'll highlight name and add that, and then number and add it, and area and add it, maybe perimeter and add that. And I've always added a comment column so that we could add specific notes for that row. And we'll go ahead and pick OK. We have now our schedule that shows all the information, the area, the perimeter, based on the rooms themselves. We're going to close out of the drawings that we're not working with and have the level 2 plan next to the schedule by using tile in the view tab. We'll be able to have them side by side. If you select the wall and change here the temporary dimension to, let's say, 20 feet, you'll be able to see the schedule update automatically, so they are linked and you can see the changes. So we'll create a new sheet, highlight here sheet, and then right click and pick new. And we're going to load a smaller sheet size. We'll pick load and go to title blocks, and then we'll go ahead and pick the 22 by 34 sheet and then pick OK. We can maximize this sheet and drag and drop the plan and the schedule onto our sheet, the level 2 plan. We're not using the area plans. I wanted you to create one and know that there is one there. We're going to rename the level 2 view to second floor plan, and it asks if you want other corresponding views that have that name to change, and I said yes, so that the area plan could also be called the second floor plan. And then drag and drop it onto your sheet along with the schedule. We can drag and drop the schedule from the project browser onto our sheet. We'll make minor modifications to make it fit on the sheet a little bit better by here selecting the view in the sheet, right clicking and picking activate view, and then selecting those elevation markers and hiding them in the category, and then readjusting the title of the plan and dragging and dropping it closer to the floor plan. So now I'm going to just select everything and kind of move it over. I've got a schedule with the area and a plan with the title. We'll save this file. You can now use a guide grid in the View tab, give it a name, and customize the boundaries and the guide spacing for that grid. You'll see in the Properties palette the guide spacing is 1 inch. Change that to 2 inches and see the spacing update. Levels, grids, reference planes, model crop regions, and schedule extents can snap to these grids. And once you've created a grid and you go to a different sheet in the Properties palette, you can apply that grid here at the bottom right corner to another sheet using the name that you established on the first sheet, making it easy to create one guide grid and apply it to other sheets.